Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. Today is Wednesday, November 18th. Automation Unplugged, as always, is brought to you by my day job. In case you couldn't tell from all of the signage here on my head and on my T-shirt, always representing. And what is going on? This is if you're listening from the U.S., this is the week before Thanksgiving, and it's certainly super odd time for all of us around the world, really because of the stresses related to COVID and some of the new restrictions that are going down. So I hope you all are able to see your family and friends, and if you aren't, certainly make sure that you call them and video conference them, because at the end of the day, we need each other. And I'm not sure how much longer this COVID thing's going to be around. I think it's going to be around a while. And I think mental health is really top of mind. It's top of mind for me. It's top of mind for me with my team, our leadership team, as we think about how to care for our staff. And if we look out to the world, I mean, there's all sorts of bad things happening. People need help. You know, I've heard recently of an industry friend that committed suicide. I just learned about it back in May. I learned about it recently, that this had occurred back in May. And I was sharing that with another one of my customers, and he was actually a good friend. And he said he had just heard the same thing from one of his friends and associate that was pretty close to him, and he had no idea. So the words of advice here, if you will, is reach out to people that are in your family, reach out to your friends, reach out to your team, and just make sure that you're there for them, and see if there's anything that you can do. Strange times we're living in. I don't know that we're going to get back to, quote, what we call the good old times anytime soon. I think we're just in a brave new world, and we need to learn how to cope with it and frankly make the most out of it. And but we are here for a fun interview. I've been trying to get these fellas into a show for a little bit of time. They're an award-winning and well-recognized, actually one of the top ProSource members in the Southeast. They've won that award, I know, once, maybe multiple times. We'll ask them here in just a minute. But we are here for show 145, and I have the one and only Bert. I want to say his last name is Herrero. If I'm saying that wrong, he's going to correct me here in just a minute. And he is the CEO. And we have Joel Hernandez. He's the general manager at South Florida-based First Priority Audio. So I'm going to go ahead and bring both of these fellas in. And they also run their own Facebook Live show. So we're going to get into that, and we'll talk about that. And if you're out there watching and listening, you guys should subscribe to their show and check them out. They're always putting out great content for their community and for their customers. But let me go ahead and let me bring them in. So bear with me. Well, we'll switch to this view. Bert, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome.
You got the last name just perfectly.
I did. All right, man. I always make that. Everyone that listens to this show knows I always fail to remember to get pronunciation clarification before I go live, and then I just kind of roll with it when I'm live. It's like you flip a coin, 50% I get it right, 50% I get it wrong.
I was just about to say 50-50 shot.
50-50 shot. Joel, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Super duper. Now, guys, I normally would have done this before I brought you in, but I'm going to do it right now. So hang out with me here for a minute. I'm going to just bounce over to Facebook, and I want to make sure we're coming in live and loud and clear. So let me just refresh my page. And there we are. So everyone tuned in, thank you for tuning in. Drop into the comments. Let us know who you are and where you're coming to us from. And Bert, I guess I'll start with you. If you could maybe introduce yourself. Where are you at right now? And maybe give us a little bit about First Priority Audio, and then I'll jump over to Joel.
So where I'm at mentally or physically?
Whatever feels right. This is a no judgment zone, Bert.
Thank you. So my name is Bert Herrero, as you said. I'm the owner of First Priority Audio. We've been in business since 2001. Very lucky to be blessed with my cousin as my partner in business, and he does a lot as part of our company. And we're a family-owned and operated business. We always have been, and we take a lot of great pride in making sure that we keep everybody that's in as part of the family. Of course, we ran out of family members to hire, so we had to hire people from outside. But they're like our family, so they try to leave, I break their legs. It's just simple.
There
right?
You go. It's just a family with rules.
Asked.
That's all.
So I'm not in our normal studios per se, which is reason for the lighting being all bad. This caught me at an off time, but I'm at home and I'm sitting in the corner of a bedroom, doing what I'm doing.
Awesome. A little bit about the size of your company. How many trucks are you rolling in South Florida these days?
So I think our fleet is up to about 9 vehicles, and we're running about 23 employees. We have a separate service team aside from an installation team, which is a little different. We don't pull our install team to go do service. We don't pull our service people to go do installs. We have a dedicated service team with a 24/7, 365 call center partner that we work with. And, we try to make sure that we're unique in certain ways that other people in our area are not.
Got it. Yeah, and I want to definitely pull on that thread or those threads and learn more about that. But we'll get there. Joel, you want to introduce yourself, sir?
Sure. Joel Hernandez. I am currently in my home as well. My lighting's a little better than Bert's, I guess.
You're beating Bert in that category.
Yeah.
He's got the producer at home. Yeah.
That's true. but all of our gear is up at the shop. All of our Facebook Live gear, which we've been learning a lot more and more about of what we need as we go. So hopefully the Facebook Lives look better the more you watch them, because we're improving on video and audio.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I tune into your show pretty regularly, and I see you guys stepping it up every month. So yeah, it's fun to watch. Never know what the new microphone or a new light or a new camera or a new setting. You guys keep stepping it up.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Awesome. So, and again, I see some people out there giving us some comments. Angel, thank you. He says, welcome. See if my software cooperates here. There it is. Angel says, welcome, Bert and Joel. Saludos from Mexico. And Tina, she says, welcome, Bert and Joel. Excited to have you on Automation Unplugged today. So thank you. Thank you, Tina. Thanks for tuning in. Bert, I know you've listened to a show or two, so you know where we're going here. I always like to start with origin stories and kind of how you got into this business. And sure. I know you started, I can't wait to hear about that. You started your first business when you were 18. So
I did.
Tell us, where did you come from and how did you land here so many years later with First Priority Audio?
So I came from my mama. Always a good start.
There you go.
But born and raised in Hialeah, and at the age of 18, well, when I was about 15, 16 years old, I started installing the satellites, the big CKU band satellite dishes, those big 10, 12-foot dishes we all had in our backyards, or most of us had in our backyards.
So remind me, I've heard these stories from a lot of South Florida guys. I say a lot.
I've heard these stories. You make me sound old.
I've read about these in the museum. No, I'm just kidding. These big satellite dishes, what could you do with that? What did that enable someone to do?
It allowed you to pick up cable access channels that you weren't getting with your local cable companies back in those days. You can get sports stations from all around the country that you couldn't get through cable before. And what was really, really cool about having satellite and watching it direct off satellite feeds was that you had no commercial interruptions. So every time they would break off through the cable company to go off for commercial, you'd have to actually still have a live feed. So you get to actually see the kind of stuff they would do and say in between, like when they, were off air, which was really, really cool.
That's crazy. And you would sell when you would install, and I know I'm stopping, you just got started and I'm already asking you so many questions, but I'm just super curious. So when you would install these big dishes, would you then sign them up for like a monthly subscription? Is that what that business model was? Or was it just a one-time thing? You'd go and install it and you were done?
Well, the business model was the sale of the satellite system and then the monthly subscription. There were a lot of, other services, side businesses that other people took on so that you didn't have to pay a monthly service fee, but I know nothing about that.
I've heard those stories. We won't even touch those.
My job at 16 years old was to, open the 4 foot deep, 3.5 foot wide hole that the city of Miami required for inspection on the iron, 6-inch round post that used to go into the ground so that you can install the satellite dish. And so since it was coral rock and I was 16 years old, well, hey, it only took me 3 days to open a hole. So that was my deal. It was 3 days to open the hole and another day and a half to what do they call that? Trench all the way to the house, because you had the big messenger cable, which is typically very big, and you had to trench that all the way to the house. From there, it evolved, and I learned how to install the satellites all by myself, got involved in the sales side and selling satellites, and from there, kind of, right around the age of 18, talking about the first business, right around the age of 18, I started a company called the Antenna Doctors. And while it was based in satellite, it really was helping people with local antenna feeds, because one thing you didn't get on satellite was your local channels. And so you'd have to combine it with a local antenna. And I serviced areas from Vero Beach all the way around to Fort Myers, doing local antennas when I was 18 to 20, right in that range. Got in and out of some call centers and started getting into telemarketing a bit. Did a big DirecTV telemarketing campaign with my friend Daryl Blankenship, his father, Chuck, who had a big DirecTV distributorship here in Fort Lauderdale back in those days.
My name. Call him out. We'll see if
Daryl's on vacation.
Oh, he's on vacation. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
He just texted me something about a peanut head, so we'll get back to that. So Daryl, we worked for his father, and that's how I met Daryl back when we were, probably 18, 19 years old. And then, so that kind of kept going. Telemarketing started getting a little more for me. I actually left the whole satellite industry and went to work for a travel company outside of the realm, right? And I worked at this travel company from, about 1995, 96 till about 2001. I actually quit on September 12th, 2001. I ran a call center where I had 150 employees. I was the director of the department. We ran from 7 in the morning till midnight, 7 days a week. Just got to the point on September 11th, realized life's too short, felt a little burnt. And obviously behind what just happened, I figured we need to change things up a little bit. So walked in on September 12th, quit, and been slapping a hammer and a nail ever since, right?
I love the name of your first business.
Quite selfish, wasn't it?
No, I love it. You want to tell everyone the name of the business?
It was Bert's World.
Bert's World. And was that strictly satellite, or you would do other stuff?
At that point, it was satellite and, running wires for people in homes, just doing anything that I can do to make a dollar, right? And so connecting surround sound system became very popular for me during that time. That Bert's World was very much in remembrance of my very burnt out background, right? Of Wayne's World. So,
oh yeah, I grew up on that. I think we're the same age. That's my bet.
Let's not forget the other major benefit of satellite was that you could watch the same movie back to back, because then you would shift from the East Coast to the West Coast.
To the West Coast. Right.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Is satellite, other than the little DirecTV dishes, is that still a thing? Is there any reason to have a big satellite dish? Or that's like long gone, right?
Not in my opinion, not unless you're broadcasting or doing something else. But I haven't heard anything of satellite for quite some time.
All right. So, but First Priority Audio, when was that business established, and how long have you been in business under that name?
Well, it's been the same business since 2001. The only thing we did was a name change, and we did that name change right around 2003, maybe 2004. And what it was I was at church, and I was listening to Chris Lane from First Priority of South Florida talking about his ministry and what he's looking to do in the start of his ministry. And I looked over to my wife and I said, we're going to name the business First Priority Audio. We're going to support that ministry as long as we're in business. And so we took on the ministry in support of, and we're still in support of that ministry to today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've got their website or some of that content pulled up, and I want to share that with our audience here in just a few minutes. Joel, what's your origin story, man? How did you get into this business?
Probably like most people, just always that kid that tinkered around with the stereos and the VCRs and hooked up the PlayStations and all that stuff for the whole family. That was probably my role within the family, was always the one to go do that kind of stuff. I studied hospitality, so that was my educational background. And I actually went into hospitality when I graduated, and somehow or another fell into project management for a construction company. Very young. I was maybe 22, 23. Had no idea, no experience in construction. But I was basically told it's babysitting adults and following a schedule. So just be
I think
confident.
most project managers would agree with that description.
Yeah, and then I learned a lot on the job. But being in that and seeing what people were renovating their homes and doing to their homes, and the occasional, this addition to the house, I'm going to make this a home theater, or we're going to remodel the living room and I want to do surround sound. And being that I always played with that stuff, I said, well, I can do that. And that kind of just snowballed into something bigger and bigger and bigger until I decided to start my own company. And I did that in 2007. And so I started an AV business in Miami in 2007. And I was the prototypical one-man show, right? I drove the van. I drove to the distributor to pick up gear. I ran wire in the attic. When I got home, I did my invoicing and billing, and spent hours in QuickBooks to get everything to where I needed to be to start all over the next day, right?
Then you would call Bert and cry on his shoulder, like, "Man, this is hard."
Well, Bert, funny enough, Bert got mad at me because I don't think I was in business 5 months or 6 months, and I sold a $250,000 project, not knowing practically anything. I was way in over my head, but I talked a good game, and I was able to get myself a $250,000 project. I basically, the second we hung up that phone, I called Bert and said, I need your help because I don't know what I'm doing here.
I wasn't mad. I just found it comical.
And you guys are cousins.
Yes.
And you guys both went off and got into this audio video business, and you didn't do that. Joel, when I was talking to you before we went live, you didn't even know the full extent of Bert's business that he had been running since, 2000.
Bert was living up in Fort Lauderdale, and I was living down in Miami. Not that they're super far away, but they're two
I just say you're
cities.
acting like that's 30 miles away. It's not like states or countries apart.
Sure, but they're isolated enough, right? Where we were only seeing each other at family gatherings every once in a while, and so it was just pure coincidence that we both ended up doing this stuff separately. Thanks to him, though, I stopped buying stuff online because that's how I was buying product originally.
You weren't even buying from the local distributors.
I didn't know how. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know where to start. I would literally was buying stuff online at the best price I could find it, and then marking it up 10-20% or whatever and reselling it. Yeah.
Ooh,
So our grandmother's birthday was in February. She was born February 6th, if I'm not mistaken. And EHX was in March in Orlando back then. I can't remember the year. I don't know that he can.
The early 2000s. I remember it was like every other year or something in Orlando.
Yeah, every year, right. And so I grabbed them and I said, look, EHX is next month. I'm going. Come with me, and I'll introduce you to some people. And that's what we did. And that's how he got started in buying from distribution and whatnot.
So, Joel, how long did you run your own gig before you and Bert partnered up?
About 7-8 years.
7-8 years. And when you decided, or you guys decided to join forces, what was your goal? What did you hope would be different by joining First Priority Audio?
Well, obviously allows me to share the burden, right, and not have it all on my shoulders. But I think the main reason was I was getting burnt out, doing everything myself. Right? I didn't have any other employees, any full-time employees. It was typical one-man show, right? If I needed help, I would call around, and if my dad was free, he'd help me pull wire. If my brother-in-law was free, he'd help me pull wire. I had random friends that would help me. Whenever I needed a hand, I would call around to find somebody. And doing that and selling and everything else, it was a lot of this. And I think the one-man shows know that, right? You sell a ton of stuff and then you're busy installing it for 3 months, and then you've got no work and the cycle starts all over again, right?
It's vicious.
And yeah, so I went to Bert and I said, how do I either hire people and do this right because I need help, or how do I sell more so that I don't have those ups and downs? And we started having the conversation of coming together. Now that didn't happen overnight either. I think that probably took over a year, of several phone calls and conversations. Yeah,
or longer.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to give a couple of people some shout outs. You know this person, Andres Klein of Maxicon down in Miami. He says these guys are
mi
amazing.
amigo.
Mi amigo. Andres, man, I got my team reaching out to you. We want to have you on the show, so you got to respond to Allison. There you go. Call him out in public. He's got to come on the show now, right?
That's right.
He says he's your number one fan, guys.
He does show up to a lot of our Facebook Lives. That's true.
That's awesome.
So for those that don't know, Andres is another integrator in Miami. We're
our competitor.
A competitor, but we're a tight-knit group here. We're all friendly.
Yeah,
we are.
That's awesome. And we got Wes. He says, welcome guys to the show. And we got Tomas from Panama. He says, hello to all from Panama. What's up, Tomas? He's one of our frequent listeners. And we got Eddie. Eddie just got elected to the CEDIA board. He's hanging out. Eddie, what's up?
Congrats.
Thanks for joining us. So, Bert, what was it like for you to have your family member, Joel, join the business? And how did you think about dividing and conquering? Like, what were you able to delegate maybe off your plate? So that you could do more of what you love and what you're best at, and maybe work off of Joel's strengths. How did you think about that or approach that? And did it happen immediately or did it take time?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. So starting with the whole family dynamic, I think that our business was always intended to be a family-owned and operated business. And with that said, my mother still works for us. My daughter works for us. I fired my wife to go homeschool our son. So, but I have another cousin that still works for us, and
my wife works for us now.
Joel's wife now.
That is a family business.
So I've always intended for it to be a family business. There's no one more that I trust than our family, right, to do what we do. But then you run out of family, right? So you got to go and hire people. And so, we love our entire team. I think we treat our entire team as a family. I even jokingly say, if anybody tries to leave, I'll break their legs. But it's with a lot of love that I would do it.
It's completely a joke for HR purposes.
This is not real. Wink, wink, fingers crossed.
So I think from that perspective, I've always been accustomed. As a matter of fact, my wife and I met, when I was 21, she was my boss. So, I've always been that kind of person that I can work tight knit with family. I now even just thinking of jobs that I went through, my brother worked with me, my mom worked with me at places, my wife worked with me at other places. I mean, so to me, it was just natural to be able to have conversation with family and be able to say, hey, this is business, this is our family, right? And so I think we still do that pretty well as a company, and I think that that's the culture that we really have created. So, so from the family perspective, I didn't find it difficult to work with Joel. When Joel came on board, I think that I'm out of the gate and I'm selling a $250,000 job really got me to the point where, damn, this kid can sell. So I've always been the technician, put me behind a rack and let me work and let me connect stuff and troubleshoot. And sales was always a second nature byproduct for me, but because I was a good tech, not because I was a good salesperson.
It was a necessary evil. You needed the new work, but selling it wasn't your favorite part.
Right. And so I think that bringing Joel in, that was always the intent, to focus on the sales side of the business. And so as a matter of fact, when he came into the business, that was the focus from him, was to be the salesperson and really start taking the lead on sales. But the business was growing, and his addition just added to that growth. And as we were growing, we found more of a need for the business mindset, the administration, the processes, the things that really made a difference on paper, and not so much in the bank account. And Joel quickly fell into that role where, he's always had I'm a school of hard knocks kind of kid. So Joel has always had the business minded type of education. And he just took really well to helping us push forward and creating those processes and doing things like implementing software to automate the business, implementing strategies to, for operations, for sales, for administration, so on and so forth. And so we've seen a ton of success from all our team, but specifically from Joel and being a part of it, just because of the way that we've grown operationally from that.
Now, Bert, I know I've got some notes here from our chat just before going live, that you guys as a business engaged with friends of mine, the guys over at Steve and Paul over at Vital Management. You did that back in 2018. And I'm curious, did you find them? Did Joel find them? Did you guys find them at a ProSource event? Like, where did that come from? Joel's raising his hand. So so I'm gonna point at you, Joel. Can you tell me how you found them and why that was interesting for you to engage, and what happened through that engagement?
I don't remember exactly how, but whether it was a CE Pro article or one of those industry articles, I saw what they were doing. And I said, this is something we need to look at, because we need to improve the financials of the business. We need to start looking at how to do that better. We were having, we still are having double-digit growth, year over year. Bert, I think since 2012, we've been seeing double-digit growth year over year.
Yep.
That's amazing.
So, but just because you're growing the revenue doesn't necessarily mean you're growing the profit, right? And so we had to figure that out. And we sat with them at CEDIA Expo at their suite that year. Steve talked to both of us, and that really is what got Bert's mindset on, this is the right thing. We need some help, some guidance here on how to rectify some of this stuff. And I think their experience being that they were specific to our industry is really what got us, because you can have a ton of business consultants come in, and we actually had someone come in probably a couple years before that. And not to say that wasn't valuable, because it was valuable, but they don't have that mindset of the experience of the little intricacies of
they didn't speak integrator.
Yeah, they barely spoke contractor, right? So it's a different world.
Right.
We're, what we do is different than a standard business or a retail establishment, but they try to jam all of their spreadsheets in that way, and that's not the way our business is run. And it's been hugely successful for us.
I want to dive a little deeper, if you'll allow, just if there's one or two things that come to mind that through that engagement, you realized you guys needed to change, whether it was a way, a KPI or a ratio or something you started looking at that maybe you weren't previously looking at, or something maybe related to your pricing or margins. Like what was something that resulted that clearly had a net effect on your bottom line?
Well, I mean, the first thing I know that's the one that because I took it on as my personal project, was the sales mix on every single proposal and every single sales order that we put out. Was that, that 60, 32, 8 kind of ratio. That's kind of the vital, path. 60% equipment, 8% parts, and 32% labor. Now, though those numbers can shift around a little bit, but roughly that's where you want to be. That's number one. And then within each of those categories is then improve your margins as best as possible. And that's something that we really focused on initially, was to trim a lot of the manufacturers that we have, because everybody's items book just balloons. As you find one thing over here and one thing over there, you now are representing 40 brands. It's impossible to keep up, number one, with the specs on 40 different brands. You're not going to be able to do that. So in order to really know your product well, and really be able to know what your margins are going to be, you have to trim that list down. And that's what we did initially. We started choosing the specific manufacturers in different categories to refine that as best as possible.
Bert, what was the net result of that focus on finances and operations? Is there something that really resonates with you? You've owned and operated the business for 20 years. And we're saying here a couple of years ago, you guys made some tweaks. What's been the result of that?
Well, the result has not just been a big revenue growth from a process standpoint within the company. And when I say process, I mean sales, administration, and operations, but also a net profit increase, which, we didn't see before. So we really made a massive turnaround from, our 2018 numbers to our 2019. And now we're operating from a position of, positive cash flow and profits.
No, that's, I, for full disclosure, I've known Paul and Steve for a long time, and we actually hired Paul this summer for a P&L analysis project. And he gave us some guidance as well. And we implemented the guidance, and it was a net win for everyone. He helped us see some things that we couldn't see for ourselves. And sometimes it helps to get that outside perspective. So
absolutely.
I've heard of these success stories out there in the marketplace. And this year we actually, experienced it firsthand. Bert, I want to shift gears a little bit. I know that in particular, you really run your business with a philosophy of helping your community. And you don't have a belief system, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've known you for a little bit. And you don't really run your business with the goal of, netting huge profit and building the mansion and buying the yacht, but rather reinvesting in your people and your community. And can you kind of talk to me a little bit, talk to the audience a little bit about your philosophy in business?
I appreciate that. Yeah, pretty much as you said, right? My heart has never been the type that wants to be rich and show glory, right? We have always focused on making sure that everything that we do is giving back to our community, giving back to ministries that we're very tightly involved with. Some of those ministries are 4 Kids of South Florida, as well as First Priority of South Florida. And them two really encompass a lot from us. We are, me personally, as a family, I'm a 4 kids family. We have 2 adopted children in our lives. And so 4 kids is a big deal on that. And First Priority of South Florida is a ministry that we named the business after, as I said earlier. And they're a really, really cool ministry that speaks to the high school level and to the middle school level children, and really trying to expand around the country. But I think they've pushed into 7 or 8 states or something like that now. where they equip young men and women to do, or teenagers, I should say, right? But where they're equipping them to go out and do Bible studies within the high school level. And that really is a ministry that has shaped a lot of my thought process in my life and just made a difference to me. But then we also support organizations or charitable organizations like the Heart Gallery of South Florida, or the Heart Gallery. Yeah. And, they're very much involved in the foster care system, as is 4Kids of South Florida. But this is a non-ministry organization that we have done plenty for in the past when it comes to, donation of times, resources. We donate to them electronics whenever they do auctions so that they can do, fundraising or whatnot. So we try to be there and do what we can for these ministries. And then there are several of them, of course, that we've done things for in the past, and other things that we do, whether in our community or outside our community. I know a lot of people.
Well, I just want to clarify, is this something, I know you believe in these things and you take your profit from the company and you invest as you see fit. Do you mandate that your team, I'm just looking from a business standpoint, do you tell your team they have to be involved with these things? Or is this just this is what you do with the some of the proceeds from your company?
Yeah, this is what we do. So, for instance, just this past week, and you'll start to see this on our Facebook, I think our producer is going to start pushing this around pretty soon. Every Christmas or holiday season, we do what's called Operation Christmas Child. It's sponsored by, what is that?
Samaritan's Purse.
Samaritan's Purse, thank you. And basically, it's a shoebox that you fill with a bunch of little things that are useful for kids in certain age ranges, and then you deliver the shoebox, you pay for the shipping, and it goes out across the world basically to areas of need, and these children get these little gifts and get thought of at this time of the year. And every year we've been doing this as a company. Every year I'll buy 200-300 boxes and I'll set them in place, and I'll ask everybody to take as many as they want to do and as many as they're willing to do. We have guys that really put into it. We have guys that'll take a few, and I'm okay with whatever they do. It doesn't matter to me. And then at the end of the day, we finish filling the rest of the boxes. Sometimes we'll do it as a group together. Sometimes we'll just wrap them up and get them all cleaned up individually at the shop, and then we stack them, take them over. I pay whatever it is for the shipping on it, aside from buying all the trinkets and stuff that go into all the other stuff, and we get those shipped out. So it's a matter of participation, but it's wherever their heart leads to participate. I really don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. It's where their heart leads.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. I have a comment here. Wes says, "You guys are awesome. Good on you." And I back what Wes says. That's amazing. And so often when people have beliefs around helping, either through their church or their communities or the philanthropic organizations that they want to support, they kind of do it privately. And I appreciate your willingness to talk about it publicly and talk about why that's important to you. I don't get enough of that on this show and in day-to-day conversations. So I'm proud of you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
Switch gears a little bit. This is the year of COVID. I hope this is known as the year of COVID. And in 2021, we get to move on. Who knows?
Anything else?
Anything else?
2018, 19, 21, 22.
I tell you what. But what impact? And I'm gonna direct this at you, Bert. What impact has this had on your business? Kind of maybe what happened initially, and then where are you guys at right now?
Well, I think that initially was the initial consideration was what's going to happen, right? I think nobody really knew or understood. We started to see effect of it right around the ending of March, beginning of April, I think through the lockdowns and whatnot. And I think everybody else saw the same thing. But it quickly kind of morphed into something different, even though there wasn't the amount of the type of business we wanted to see, right? A lot of people weren't really making decisions when it came to new homes and and purchasing and this, that, and the other. But it seemed like everybody that was really starting to, stay in place and stay home, the whole retrofit side of the business really started to grow. From a perspective of the kids are home and now my network system's not working, or it can't handle the type of speed we need to be able to, do schoolwork, do Zoom meetings, do this, that, the other. And it just seemed to be a pattern as that continued to grow. It was funny because we did our first Facebook Live episode right around, I think it was May, right, Joel?
Yeah,
right
it
at the
was
beginning of May.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, we had asked around, like, what are we seeing the most of? And I think Joel says in that Facebook Live episode, it was actually people were more interested in making sure that their music was working than anything else, which we found kind of interesting. Like, really, it's not the network, it's not TV, it's music. But, that kind of leads into a lot of things. And I think that's basically what happened is we started to see an increase in business from people just staying in place. And that seemed to have grown to a point where, as long as we were making sure that we were following a procedure to be able to go to a client's house and they felt comfortable doing that with us, then we can go in and do what we had to do and be as, gentle as possible, right? As if we were never there.
Are you still fully PPing up when you go into job sites?
Yep.
Do you think you'll finish this year flat or up over 19?
Most definitely up.
Most definitely up. What's the level?
We're already up from last year.
You've already beat your 2019 number.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, do you have, Joel, do you have a prediction? Do you think this rate of flow of projects or work, do you think it's going to continue, or do you have any read on that?
I don't see why not. We had big lofty goals for this year coming into it, pre-COVID.
That's me. I'm always a lofty goal kind of guy.
Hey, reach goal. It's important management strategy.
Even with the terrible, it was basically April and May were the two really bad months for, revenue wise. Even with those really bad months, I don't think we're going to hit what our original goal was, but I mean, we're going to basically just come shy of it. And then considering we basically had 2 months that we had to throw in the trash, we're very happy with that outcome. Without getting into specifics, this second half of the year, we've outpaced anything we thought we would be able to do.
What do you attribute that to, Joel?
Well, it's partly the demand of, like what Bert was saying. There's a lot more demand of improving the home environment, and there's a lot more disposable income this year because nobody's traveling, or there's very little travel. There's very little expenditures being done, and so I do think that people are looking to improve the household and just do some stuff around the house because whatever, they're bored of the same TV room they've had, so they want to upgrade it. And then the housing market hasn't slowed down. It's at least down here, it's incredible. Like, houses are selling for over market value, and I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I would have assumed it would go the other way, but luckily I didn't bet on that because it's been the other way around. So new construction is still pushing forward, and people have money to burn to some extent that they're willing to spend in the house.
What areas do you guys do work? Do you guys do strictly Fort Lauderdale? Do you guys do Palm Beach down to Miami? Where do you shop for customers?
We cover most of South Florida. Our backyard is Fort Lauderdale, but we'll go up into West Palm. We go down into Miami. We go west into Parkland and those types of areas. We actually have some international projects right now, which are pretty crazy. We've got a project in Trinidad. We have another project in South America. It's which actually, funny enough, that South America project came right in the middle of COVID. It came because of See for Yourself month in May. So that focus of Control 4's month in May and doing as many virtual events as we could actually exposed us to a couple down in South America that were building a house, and we're working on that project right now.
Well, let's transition into that. So you guys are, I'm going to say you're on the front edge of innovation in terms of leveraging social media to put your brand, put your message out there. And you guys, so much so that you're doing a Facebook Live show, just like this is a Facebook Live. And I take this audio and I produce this out separately as a podcast. I actually don't know if you're doing that, or is your show strictly Facebook Live?
It's strictly live right now. We're looking at chopping it up into smaller bite-sized chunks to use in other mediums. I don't know if podcast would work for us, mostly because we're doing a lot of visual stuff and we're showing product, and so that may not work in the podcast world. Whereas this is more interview, so that translates easier for an audio, channel or an audio medium. But we are looking at taking those 15-minute video sections and then breaking them up into little 1 minute here, 2 minute there, and using them in different places.
Yeah, Ted works with you here at One Firefly. Ted just gave a comment. He says Joelle and Stephanie coordinate their marketing efforts as well or better than anyone in the industry.
That's a compliment I'll have to pass along to Stephanie.
That's amazing. So tell our audience who I mean, I'm going to be honest, some of the people listening are watching are scared of going on to social media. They're scared of video, live or recorded. What gave you the impetus to say, I'm going to start figuring this out?
I mean, it was something Bert and I had talked about for a while doing. We just never really had, I guess, the tipping point to do it. Right. We never went live, but we would record each other in the office, and we had planned to do this or planned to send out that, using it in email. And again, I hark back to that, see for yourself month in May. Control 4 said we're going to do a whole month of this instead of the one single day. And it was May. And so nobody was getting together in person. Nobody wanted to go to any sort of event. So it was, all right, we have 1 month of virtual stuff that we've got to try to move forward with. And so we said, all right, let's do it. Let's do Facebook Live and let's try it out. And we called you, asked you some advice on, what software should we test out. And that was pretty much it. We were up and running.
What did I say? Just
camera.
Press record and start talking.
Pretty much.
Just stick with it.
Yeah, and that's what we've done. We during the See for Yourself months, we do one a week, and the rest of the year we're doing one every other week, so a couple a month. It does take sacrifice. You have to set the time aside. You got to block the time out. We're lucky enough that my wife Stephanie, she kind of takes on the bulk of the preparation work, and she puts together a sheet of what we're going to talk about and the topics, and we rehearse it beforehand. So what looks like it takes 15 minutes, because that's what people see. It's hours worth of work before that. So it is an investment, and you do have to commit to doing it. But I think it's been hugely beneficial for us.
Andres says that your Halloween episode was the best.
Of course he would.
Because of the costume. Yeah.
So what I missed it. So for our listening audience, what did you do on your Halloween episode?
So if anyone that knows us, Bert is the hunter. That's his pastime, and so he didn't really have to get a costume. He just went home and grabbed all his hunting gear, and so he was Elmer Fudding it, full hunting gear head to toe. And I was the deer in headlights, literally the giant deer in the screen, and so that's how we did the episode that week.
You were wearing a deer in headlights costume?
The deer head came up to about here. Yeah, like my head came out through the neck of the deer. You can look it up. It's pretty funny. We
Ted is saying that episode was hilarious. So I think some of the folks watching or listening, when at the end of the show, we're going to ask how people can follow you, and we're going to direct them all to the places where they can consume all these videos and shows.
I practiced proper safety. I didn't point my rifle at Joel. I just want everybody to know that.
But you did have a rifle as a part of your getup?
Yeah, of course. I mean, what's a hunter without a rifle?
There you go. Well, you could have a bow and arrow.
Yeah, but that would be a little tight in the space that we're in.
Okay.
That would have been a little awkward. I'd have probably stuck him with that.
So what?
I figured unloaded, leave all the ammo at home. There's no way it could happen.
Yeah, no, that's fair. What has been the verdict? You know, a lot of the conversations, obviously, I have and my team has all the time, call it every day of the week with, you know, the businesses we work with or that are considering working with us. They're always talking about attribution. They're talking about, you know, if I invest time, you know, time is still money, right? Because your time could be spent doing something else other than being behind the camera. And so time, money, and effort, how do you guys think about, and maybe Bert, I'll start with you. How do you think about going down this avenue of, I'll just say general marketing, but then specifically this Facebook Live strategy that you guys have been pretty diligent at sticking with?
You know, first off, I'll say I'm an old guy, right? So that's it's a hard strategy for me to get my head wrapped around, which is why I'm so happy that Joel and Stephanie have really taken it on.
You're saying it may not be happening if it weren't for Joel and Stephanie running with it?
It would not be happening if it wasn't for Joel and Stephanie. I'd still be thinking about doing it and trying to figure out why I'm not doing well in business. But
right,
you know, that's why we call Stephanie the producer. She really does take it to another level, you know. But it's cool. It's cool that we've been able to come together, do it consistently, and obviously it's been great leaps and bounds for us as a business.
That's cool. Bert, for you, do you guys feature products, and if so, do your vendors like that? I mean, do they dig that you talk about their stuff?
Absolutely. We get that all the time. I mean, you know, we try to fit in and plug in as many vendors as we can. A lot of the times during See For Yourself month, obviously things are really focused on Control 4. Mm-hmm. But we've had many of episodes in between those times that we're just plugging away at different product lines, or maybe a couple of different product lines within the same category, like a speaker or, you know, voice devices. You know, we really want to push for things like Josh AI, but we also talk about the Google and the Alexa and why.
No, that makes sense. And Joel, two things for you. One, what do you think, what success has been deemed from this? I think you mentioned, it's all a blur, so I don't know if this was pre-show or while we were going live. You were telling me about something that you did get, or somebody watched one of the shows. So have you been able to attribute any lead gen coming from this strategy, or have you had your customers or prospects tell you that they've watched it?
So we definitely have people say that they saw it. I think the biggest benefit directly to this and how we use it in our sales process is that when we're on a sales call or on the phone with a client or a potential client and they ask about a specific solution or product, we have now all this content that we've created that we can say, we actually did a whole Facebook Live on voice control. And I can send them a link to our Facebook Live, and now they can see it, and you know, they get more original content directly from us. It positions us as obviously you know, the expert in that category or in that solution, without having to point them to a specific manufacturer product, right? Which is nothing wrong with that, but that can open the door for them to start looking at other things and other solutions, other dealers. Whereas you create your own content, you can now control that experience.
And for those that are listening, and Joel, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think I know this. Each of those videos gets, you know, I don't want the word Facebook Live to scare anyone listening. Each video becomes its own URL. So it's right. A link. You can email that link to people. They don't have to know anything about social media. They just watch the video that you've produced.
Right.
So you're in essence building out a library of topics and content that become a resource for your prospects and customers.
Yeah. And it's what you said earlier, you asked Bert earlier about like attributing an ROI. It's really, really difficult to attribute an ROI to social media, period. And if that's your only trigger to say I'm gonna do social because of the ROI, don't. That's not the way, or that's not the mindset behind social. It's awareness.
You're going to
it's
get
brand
really
awareness.
frustrated if that's what you're going in demanding.
It's brand awareness. It's get your name out there and get people to know who you are and build content. You create the ROI later by leveraging the content during the sales process. But trying to directly link that stuff together, like you said, you're going to go nuts because you're never going to see a direct return on it.
Give our audience some guidance around tech. When I mean tech, like your studio, you shoot Facebook Live. So what do you use for your camera? What do you use for your microphone? What do you use for your lighting? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, it's nice that you called it a studio. It's our lobby in our office.
I'm just using video production code words.
No.
Thanks for the professionalism.
Yeah, I'm helping you out. Hey, I'm in my studio, also known as my office.
Yeah, you learn as you go along for sure. I mean, it all runs off of a laptop, right? There's nothing fancy to it. We use the same software you use, which is BeLive. There's several other ones out there. It's really easy to use, which is why we kind of like that one. But yeah, it just runs off of our laptop. We started with one of those like little cameras that clip to the top of the monitor. That's how we did probably the first 10 to 12 episodes. We now have a DSLR camera that we just hook up via USB to our laptop just for better video. We bought a little Yeti.
He likes that idea. We're gonna have to.
I'm impressed. That's an advanced streamer technique there, using a DSLR with USB mini to your machine.
I mean, I figured I had the DSLR sitting in my office. I figured let me use it for something more than taking pictures on vacation. So
you can't see it, but up on this shelf up here, I've got a Canon, a Rebel, but it's a 4i. So I actually went and looked if I could set that up as my camera, but it's not advanced enough. I have to have a 5i to do that. So you must have had
time to upgrade.
Time to upgrade. Yeah, because this right here, this is just my iMac camera. This is what, a 720p iMac FaceTime camera. Nothing fancy at all.
Yeah, we just.
So if you guys want to see a good video, you got to watch the First Priority Audio Facebook Live show. That's where it's coming in full HD 1080p.
Yeah, and we bought a ring light.
Okay.
Which Bert hates, but we bought a ring light. And that's it. That's our entire setup. And it's normally if you'd see it from the other side, you'd laugh because it's a bunch of boxes and things to kind of position stuff, and that desk looks like a mismatched pile of different components, but it all works together to look good on the other end.
Now, Andres has a very important question. He wants to know who does Bert's makeup.
We do it like a man. We rub our fingers in our hair and our beard. We're good. Sometimes a hat.
That's funny. Thank you, Andres. I appreciate that. And then Eddie says Apple needs to up the cameras on these computers. I agree, Eddie. I was just reading about the new MacBook Air, which has the new silicon chip. So apparently it makes the 720p FaceTime camera look better. But the new iMacs, I guess if you buy one now, it comes with a new 1080 camera versus the 720p, which is what this is. So, Eddie, I was researching that this morning. So rumor has it the new iMacs have better cameras, but we shall see. Both of you gentlemen, you guys have been awesome. I loved your stories, and I loved hearing about your Facebook Live episode, as well as the way you guys are reaching out and helping those in need in your community. If people are watching or listening and they want to follow you guys or learn more about First Priority Audio or get in touch with you individually, how can we do that? I'm going to start with, I'll start with you, Joel, and then I'll come over to you, Bert, and find out how people can get in touch with you.
Well, I mean, all of our contact and all of our social links and everything are on our website. You can go to our website. It's www.firstpriorityaudio.com. It's all spelled out. You'll find everything there, links to our Facebook and our Instagram and all the good stuff. Me personally, if you want to reach out, email Joel, Joel, at firstpriorityaudio.com. That
all right,
probably looks familiar to you, Ron.
That does. That's a beautiful website, my man. I love that.
I was about to say.
That's hot stuff. Bert, tell us, how can people get in touch with you, sir?
Well, same thing, right? We have all the links available on the website for anybody that wants to reach out with us. But if someone wants to contact me directly, it's Bert, B-E-R-T, at firstpriorityaudio.com. Real simple.
Awesome. And we will put all of those contact information. Stephanie is here, and she will type those into the show notes on our website, as well as in the comment section here under the video. So if you guys want to grab that. And Eddie, of course, I got to put this on screen. Eddie says, your website is so nice. So I think all three of us agree, Eddie. It is a pretty website.
We've gotten a lot of compliments about it, actually.
Yes,
well,
we have.
We just did some new video production, fellas. So we'll have to share with Ted, I think is your account manager here. So we'll have to get you guys looped in and show you some of the newest stuff. We were just shooting new content last week.
Cool.
Look at Ted's last comment.
Whoever...
Perfect.
Ted said, whoever made that site needs a raise.
I agree, Ted.
I agree. Well, both of you, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for making time to do this.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So there you have it. The one and only Bert and Joel. These guys are rock stars, award-winning. They're being recognized by their industry, by their peers, as really running a first-class operation here in South Florida. And I'm glad you're able to tune in. Now, as always, this video, this interview, these interviews I do every week are also actually I put the wrong piece of art up, didn't I? These interviews are in podcast or audio format. Now, according to Joel, he's a podcast listener, and Bert doesn't know how to spell podcast. Now, I think that's mean, and I would never say that, but those were Joel's words. And, but if you like to listen to your content, I do it every morning on my morning walk. I listen to all sorts of shows, some industry related, most of them not industry related. I recommend you check out podcasting and certainly subscribe to our show. We'd love you to do that. And, lastly, here's our information. If you want to check out One Firefly or learn more, there's our website. Give us a call. We have a cool little live chat doodad on the website. Interact with us. And there you go. I'm going to put Eddie's comment on the screen. He goes, I listen to the podcast often. Awesome, Eddie. I appreciate that. And again, congrats on making the CDA board. So on that note, everyone, I'm signing off. Have a great week. Be safe. I actually don't know if we're doing a show next week. Stephanie, you're going to have to help me in the comments and put that down there, whether we'll have a show coming out next week or not. Otherwise, I will see you guys soon, and be well.